The bass cut out mid-beat, and every dancer on stage froze. Stella's hands stilled on the pole, her body suspended in a backbend, because she knew what silence in Club Exodus meant. It meant Kang Ji-Hoon had arrived, and when he walked through those doors, even the music knew to bow. She straightened slowly, her dark skin gleaming under the strobe lights that now seemed too bright, too exposing. Through the haze of smoke and red lighting, she watched him move through the crowd like a knife through silk, men and women parting without him having to say a word. He wore all black, a suit that probably cost more than she'd made in 6 months of dancing, and his face was beautiful in the way sharp things were beautiful. All angles and cold eyes that missed absolutely nothing. Ji-Hoon stopped at the edge of the stage, looked up and pointed directly at her. "You. Private room 3. Now." Stella's heart slammed against her ribs. She'd been in Seoul for 6 months, dancing under fake papers, saving every dollar to disappear before her cover got blown. She had one rule, the only rule that mattered. Never go to private rooms with men like him. Men who owned buildings and politicians and souls. Men whose names made other men go pale. But then he held up a briefcase, opened it just enough for her to see the stacks of bills inside, and said in perfect English, "One dance, no touching, $50,000. $50,000. That was her ticket out, her new life, her safety. That was everything she'd been working toward. Stella climbed down from the stage, ignoring the stares of the other girls, ignoring the voice in her head, screaming that this was a mistake. She followed Ji-Hoon through the club, past the VIP section, past the regular private rooms, to the one at the very back that she'd never seen anyone use. Hey, beautiful people, before we dive deeper into Stella and Ji-Hoon's dangerous game, tell me where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe and like so I can share more heartwarming stories with you tomorrow. It is your beautiful way of supporting us. Thank you all. Love you guys. Let's begin. The room was smaller than she expected, intimate, with one chair facing a small platform and nothing else. No bed, no couch, no obvious threat. But Stella's investigator instincts were screaming. She'd infiltrated this club specifically to track Ji-Hoon's money laundering operation, had spent months building her dancer cover, and now he'd isolated her. Either he knew what she was, or this was something else entirely. Ji-Hoon closed the door, locked it, and sat down in the chair. He didn't lean back, didn't relax, just watched her with those dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her dancer makeup and into whatever she was trying to hide. "You were here 3 weeks ago, Thursday night around 2 in the morning. You saw something." Stella's blood turned to ice. 3 weeks ago, she'd been in the back hallway getting air, between sets when she'd heard voices raised in anger. She'd ducked into a supply closet just as Ji-Hoon and an older man, later identified as his father, Kang Min-soo, had burst through. She'd watched through the crack in the door as Min-soo pulled a knife, lunged at his son, and Ji-Hoon had reacted on pure instinct. The older man had gone down hard, blood pooling fast, and Ji-Hoon had stood there shaking, like he couldn't believe what he'd done. Stella had stayed hidden for 3 hours until the body was gone and the hallway cleaned, then slipped out and pretended she'd seen nothing. But apparently, he'd known she was there all along. "I don't know what you're talking about," Stella said, keeping her voice steady even though her hands were trembling. "I dance. I don't see anything else." "Liar." Ji-Hoon's voice was soft, almost gentle. "You're good. I'll give you that. Better than most. You knew exactly when to hide, exactly how long to wait, exactly how to disappear without raising suspicion. That takes training." He tilted his head. "What kind of dancer has that kind of training, Stella Williams? Or is that even your real name?" She said nothing, calculating her exits, her options, her chances of making it to the door, before he stopped her. The answer was 0. She had 0 chances, and they both knew it. Here's what's going to happen, Ji-Hoon continued, his tone conversational, like they were discussing the weather instead of murder. You're going to dance for me every night for 1 month. Private room, just like this. $50,000 per night. At the end of the month, I'll give you a new passport, a clean identity, and a plane ticket to anywhere you want to go. He paused. And I'll let you leave Korea, alive. And if I refuse, then I hand you over to the people who are looking for you, and I'm guessing whoever you're running from is worse than me. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Am I wrong? He wasn't wrong. If Stella's agency found out she'd witnessed the murder and hadn't reported it immediately, they'd burn her. If Ji-Hoon's enemies found out she existed, they'd use her against him. She was trapped between 2 kinds of death, and he was offering her a third option that might actually let her survive. What are the rules? Stella asked finally. You dance, I watch. No touching, no exceptions, no negotiations. We keep this professional. Ji-Hoon stood, moved closer but stopped just outside her personal space. I don't touch my dancers, and they don't touch me. That's how this works. Stella looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something she hadn't expected. Exhaustion. This man who supposedly ran half of Seoul's underground looked tired in a way that went deeper than lack of sleep. Like he'd been running on fumes for so long, he'd forgotten what rest felt like. Professional, Stella repeated. For 1 month. 1 month, Ji-Hoon confirmed. Starting tonight. She should have said no, should have run, should have called her handler, should have done anything except nod and say, then you better have the music I requested. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or respect. He pulled out his phone, pressed a button, and suddenly Afro beats filled the small room. Not the K-pop or American hip-hop the club usually played, but WizKid, real and familiar and enough to make Stella's throat tight with homesickness. You did your research, she said. I always do. Ji-Hoon sat back down, crossed one leg over the other, and settled into his chair like a king on a throne. Now dance for me, Stella. Show me what $50,000 looks like. Stella had danced for hundreds of men over the past 6 months, had perfected the art of being sexy without being available, desirable without being vulnerable. But dancing for Ji-Hoon was different. His eyes never left her, never wandered to her body parts like she was pieces instead of a whole person. He watched her face, her hands, the way she moved like he was studying art in a museum. She rolled her hips to the beat, let her hands slide over her body, and realized with a start that she wasn't performing. Not really. She was dancing the way she used to dance alone in her apartment, free and unself-conscious and real. It should have felt dangerous, exposing herself like that to someone like him. Instead, it felt like relief. The song ended, and Stella stopped, breathing hard, her skin flushed with exertion. Ji-Hoon stood, pulled an envelope from his jacket, and set it on the platform beside her feet. Same time tomorrow, and Stella. He moved toward the door, paused with his hand on the lock. Wear something that makes you feel powerful, not something that makes men feel powerful. There's a difference. Then he was gone, and Stella was alone with $50,000 and the growing certainty that she'd just made a deal with someone far more dangerous than she'd anticipated. Not because he was violent or cruel, but because he saw her. Really saw her. And being seen by Kang Ji-Hoon might be the most dangerous thing of all. The next night, Stella wore gold, a 2-piece set that caught the light and made her dark skin glow, that felt like armor and silk at the same time. When she walked into private room 3, Ji-Hoon was already there, and the way his eyes tracked over her made something low in her stomach tighten. Better, he said. Then, tell me something true. What? Stella stopped halfway to the platform. One truth per night. That's the new rule. You dance, I watch, you tell me something real. Ji-Hoon leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I'll start. My father was a monster who hurt me every day of my childhood, and killing him was the first time I've slept through the night in 20 years. The raw honesty of it hit Stella like a fist to the chest. This wasn't what she'd expected. Not confessions, not vulnerability, not this. Your turn, Ji-Hoon said quietly. Stella took a breath. My real name is Stella Okafor. I'm a financial crimes investigator, and I've been undercover in your club for 6 months, trying to prove you're laundering money through offshore accounts. The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled taut. Then Ji-Hoon laughed, really laughed, and the sound was so unexpected that Stella almost smiled. I know, he said. I've known since week 2. You're good, but I'm better. He gestured to the platform. Now, dance for me, Investigator Okafor. Show me what honesty looks like. So she danced, and this time when she moved, she let herself feel the music, let herself exist in her body instead of just using it as a tool. And Ji-Hoon watched like she was the only thing in the world worth seeing. When the song ended, he stood, handed her the envelope, and said, Tomorrow, I'll tell you why I really brought you here, and you'll understand why we both need this month to figure out what happens next. What happens next? Stella asked. War, Ji-Hoon said simply. My uncle wants me dead. Your agency wants you burned, and you're the only person in Seoul who can prove I'm not the monster everyone thinks I am. He smiled, sad and knowing. So we dance, Stella. We dance and we talk and we pretend for 30 days that we're not both drowning. And maybe, if we're lucky, we figure out how to save each other. He left before she could respond, and Stella stood there with another $50,000 and the creeping realization that this wasn't about money or investigation or even survival anymore. This was about 2 people who'd seen each other's worst moments and decided to show up anyway. By the end of week 1, Stella knew things about Ji-Hoon that she'd never find in any case file. She knew he'd taught himself English by reading American novels. She knew his mother had died when he was 7, and his father blamed him for it every day after. She knew he collected art but never displayed it because beautiful things reminded him of everything he'd destroyed. And she knew that when she danced, really danced without pretense or performance, something in his carefully controlled expression would crack open just enough for her to see the man underneath the reputation. Why do you keep coming back? Ji-Hoon asked on night 9. They'd started talking more than dancing, conversations that stretched long past the single song he'd paid for. You have enough money to run. You could disappear tomorrow and I wouldn't stop you. Stella, who'd been sitting on the edge of the platform because her feet hurt from hours of dancing earlier in the main club, looked at him carefully. Same reason you keep paying me $50,000 for conversations. Because neither of us has anywhere else to be honest. Dangerous thing, honesty. Ji-Hoon's voice was rough. Makes you care about people you shouldn't care about. Is that what's happening? Stella asked, her heart beating faster. You're starting to care about me. I cared about you the moment you chose to hide instead of run that night. Ji-Hoon stood, crossed the small distance between them, and stopped just close enough that Stella could feel the heat of him. You could have left, could have pretended you were never there, but you stayed hidden for 3 hours to make sure I was safe. No one's ever done that for me. No one's ever chosen my safety over their own. You were shaking, Stella said, remembering. After he fell. You stood there covered in his blood, and you were shaking so hard I thought you'd collapse. I couldn't leave you like that. Ji-Hoon made a sound low in his throat, something between a laugh and a sob. That's why this is dangerous. Because you look at me like I'm worth saving, and I'm starting to believe it. He lifted his hand, hovering it next to her face, not quite touching, and Stella's breath caught. They'd been so careful, so deliberate about maintaining distance, but right now, with his hand a centimeter from her cheek and his eyes dark with want, the no-touching rule felt like torture. "Don't," Ji-Hoon said, even though she hadn't moved. "Don't look at me like that unless you mean it, because I've been imagining touching you for 9 days straight, and my self-control only goes so far." "Then touch me," Stella whispered. "I can't." His hand dropped. "If I start, I won't stop, and you deserve better than a transaction in a strip club from a man who kills people for a living, before we find out if Ji-Hoon breaks his promise. And, trust me, beautiful people, it's about to get intense. Smash that like button if you're Team Ji-Hoon, or drop a fire emoji in the comments if you think Stella should run. Because what happens next changes everything. On night 14, Ji-Hoon brought food. Not club food or expensive restaurant takeout, but ingredients. Rice, tomatoes, peppers, spices in small containers that Stella recognized immediately. "You're trying to make jollof rice," she said, staring at the spread he'd laid out on the floor like a picnic. "I'm trying," Ji-Hoon confirmed. "I'm also failing. You want to help, or you want to watch me embarrass myself?" Stella laughed, real and bright, and dropped to her knees beside him. "You can't just throw it all together. There's a process. Here." She took the knife from his hand, started dicing onions with the quick efficiency of someone who'd learned at her grandmother's side. "My grandmother used to say cooking is like investigation. You have to build the evidence layer by layer until the truth reveals itself." "Smart woman." Ji-Hoon watched her hands move, then carefully mimicked her technique with the peppers. "Is she why you became an investigator?" "She was murdered when I was 19. Home invasion, they said. But nothing was stolen, just her life." Stella's voice went flat. "I didn't believe it. Spent 3 years proving it was a hit, that she'd witnessed something she shouldn't have, that her death was payment for her silence. By the time I had evidence, the men responsible were dead or disappeared." She looked at him. "So I joined the agency, figured if I couldn't save her, I could save someone else. And here you are," Ji-Hoon said softly, "saving someone else." They cooked together in comfortable silence, and when the rice was done, perfectly seasoned and rich, Ji-Hoon ate with his hands the way Stella showed him, laughing when he made a mess of it. This moment, Stella thought, this easy domesticity with a man who'd killed his own father. This was more dangerous than any gun or threat, because this felt real. This felt like something worth protecting. "My uncle knows about you," Ji-Hoon said suddenly, his smile fading. "He has pictures, surveillance, proof you're coming here every night. He thinks I'm keeping you as insurance, as the witness who'll testify I murdered my father in cold blood instead of self-defense." Stella's stomach dropped. "Is that what you're doing, keeping me as insurance?" "No." Ji-Hoon set down his food, looked at her with devastating honesty. "I'm keeping you because for 2 hours every night, I get to be someone other than Kang Ji-Hoon, the monster, the killer, the son who murdered his father. I get to be just Ji-Hoon, the man who can't cook rice and laughs at your stories and wants to know everything about you." His voice cracked. "I'm keeping you because you make me feel human again." Stella reached for him without thinking, her hand covering his, and they both froze at the contact. Skin on skin, simple and electric and absolutely against the rules. "Stella," Ji-Hoon said, his voice wrecked. "Don't. Why not?" She didn't pull away. "We've been dancing around this for 2 weeks. This thing between us, it's real. You feel it. I feel it. Why are we pretending we don't? Because once I touch you properly, once I let myself have you, I won't be able to let you go." Ji-Hoon turned his hand over, lacing their fingers together. "And in 2 weeks, This ends. You disappear with your new identity. I stay here and clean up the mess my father left, and we never see each other again. That was the deal. Deals can change, Stella said. Not this one. But even as he said it, Ji-Hoon pulled her closer, his free hand coming up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her bottom lip. Not when your life depends on leaving. The moment shattered when the door burst open. 3 men, guns drawn, and Ji-Hoon reacted instantly. He shoved Stella behind him, his body a shield, and she watched in frozen horror as he moved like violence personified. 1 man down with a knife to the throat, another with a crushed windpipe. The 3rd managed to get a shot off that grazed Ji-Hoon's shoulder before he went down too. Then silence, broken only by Ji-Hoon's ragged breathing and the sound of Stella's heart pounding in her ears. "We need to move," Ji-Hoon said, his voice calm despite the blood spreading across his shoulder. "My uncle just declared war, and you're the target." Stella, who'd been trained for field situations but never actually lived through one, snapped into investigator mode. "My apartment! I have a go bag and medical supplies. We can regroup there." They made it out through the back exit, through alleys Stella had mapped out months ago for exactly this kind of emergency. Her apartment was small, carefully anonymous, and when she sat Ji-Hoon down and started cleaning his wound, her hands were steady even though her mind was racing. "This needs stitches," she said, threading the needle from her field kit. "Then stitch it." Ji-Hoon watched her face, not the needle. "You've done this before. Training exercises, never on someone I actually—" She stopped, bit her lip. "Someone you actually what?" His voice was soft, dangerous, wanting. "Someone I actually care about," Stella finished and pushed the needle through his skin. Ji-Hoon didn't flinch, didn't look away from her face. "I'm going to kill my uncle for putting you in danger. I'm going to burn down everything he's built and salt the earth behind me. And then I'm going to give you that passport and plane ticket and watch you leave, because keeping you here means killing you eventually." His jaw clenched. "But God, Stella, I don't want to. I want to be selfish. I want to keep you." "Then keep me," Stella said, tying off the last stitch. "I'm an investigator who witnessed a murder and didn't report it. I cooked rice with the subject of my investigation. I fell for the man I'm supposed to arrest." She leaned forward, her forehead nearly touching his. "My career is already over. Might as well make it count." Ji-Hoon's hand came up to tangle in her hair, pulling her those last few centimeters until their lips met. The kiss was desperate, starving, like they'd both been drowning and finally found air. All the tension of 2 weeks, all the careful distance, shattered into pure need. "Bedroom," Stella gasped against his mouth. "Now, before one of us remembers why this is a terrible idea." "It's a terrible idea," Ji-Hoon said, standing and pulling her with him, his hands already working the zipper of her dress. "Possibly the worst I've ever had, and I don't care even a little bit." They barely made it to the bed before clothes were gone and skin was on skin, and Stella discovered that Ji-Hoon touched the way he did everything else, with complete focus and devastating precision. He learned her body like he was memorizing it, like he needed to remember every sound she made, every place that made her gasp, every way to take her apart and put her back together. "Okay, beautiful people, we've watched them fight it, we've seen them break, but Stella's about to make a choice that changes everything. Before we get to the climax, subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's story, and drop a comment telling me if love or duty should win. Now, let's see what happens when the truth comes out. When it was over, when they were tangled together and breathing hard, Ji-Hoon pressed his face into her neck and said, "I love you. I know it's insane. I know we've only had 2 weeks, but I love you, and I need you to know that before everything goes to hell. I love you too, Stella said, and felt him shudder against her. And I have a plan. The plan was simple and completely insane. Stella would testify, not for the agency but in court, with evidence she'd been carefully documenting since that first night. Evidence that proved Ji-Hoon's father had attacked first, that the killing was self-defense, that every crime the agency thought Ji-Hoon committed actually traced back to his uncle. She'd burn her career, her cover, her entire life to save him. You'll have nothing, Ji-Hoon said when she explained it the next morning, his arms tight around her. No job, no protection, nothing. I'll have you, Stella corrected, if you still want me after I destroy everything trying to save you. I'll always want you, Ji-Hoon said fiercely. But Stella, my uncle will come after you for this. The agency will come after you. You'll be the target. Then I'll be a target with the best security money can buy. Stella smiled. I hear there's this Korean Mafia boss who's really good at keeping people safe. Think he'd be interested in a long-term protection contract? Ji-Hoon laughed, then kissed her hard enough to bruise. Contract's already signed. You're mine now, investigator. And I protect what's mine. The trial took 3 months. Stella testified for 6 hours straight, producing evidence that systematically destroyed the case against Ji-Hoon while building an airtight one against his uncle. She lost her badge, her agency credentials, her spotless record. She gained death threats, media attention, and a reputation as the investigator who fell for her target. She also gained freedom. Real freedom. The kind that came from choosing love over duty and, somehow miraculously, getting to keep both her integrity and her heart intact. 6 months after the trial, Stella opened her own private investigation firm, specializing in financial crimes. Ji-Hoon went legitimate, cleaning up his family's businesses, turning blood money into ethical enterprises. It wasn't perfect, wasn't easy, but they built something real from the ashes of everything they'd destroyed. On their 1-year anniversary, Stella walked into Club Exodus, which Ji-Hoon had transformed into an upscale restaurant and jazz club. He was waiting in private room 3, which now had a table and chairs and windows overlooking the city. "Dance for me?" he asked. The same words from that first night, but his smile was warm now, open, free. "What's the rate?" Stella teased. "Everything I have," Ji-Hoon said seriously. "Every day, every night, everything I am. That's the rate for forever." "Forever's expensive," Stella said, moving into his arms. "You're worth it," Ji-Hoon said, and kissed her, while the city lights sparkled below and music played just for them. No rules, no distance, no pretending. Just 2 people who'd saved each other and chose to keep saving each other every single day. So if you made it to the end, if your heart is full and you're ready for more stories like this, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling me what you thought, whether you knew Stella would choose love, whether you shipped them from the start. Like this video if you believe in dangerous love and second chances and dancing your way into someone's heart. Because Stella and Ji-Hoon's story might be over, but their happily ever after is just beginning. And tomorrow, we have another story that's going to blow your mind. See you then, beautiful people.